My father kicked me out at 17 for defending my mother from his beatings. I slept in my car for 3 months. When my mother finally left him, she came to ask me for forgiveness with a broken arm. My mother arrived at my apartment on a Tuesday night with her arm in a sling. I hadn't seen her in 10 years. She was 52 and 26 pounds lighter than the last time. She said, "Forgive me, Danny. I never should have left you alone." I was 27. I let her in, and 2 weeks later my father walked into a federal prison with a 20-year sentence. Let me back up. My name is Daniel. Look, if you're still here, you're invested. A like and subscribe costs you nothing and it helps us find more unhinged stories like this one. We both win. Okay, back to the story. I'm a licensed CPA with my own practice in San Pedro Garza, and I serve 14 mid-sized companies in Monterrey. I live in a building in Valle Orient. Nothing I have is an accident. Every single thing cost me exactly what it cost me. My father's name is Gerardo. He's 53. He was the financial manager of an auto parts company for 21 years. He never lost a fight in his own house. My mother put up with it for 30 years. It started when she was 22. By 42 she'd lost 2 teeth, 1 rib, and half her hearing in the right ear. She never went to the doctor about any of it. I was an only child. I grew up under 2 rules: don't talk back to my father, and don't ask for anything that implied we needed something in the house. My mother enforced the second rule for me. If I came home crying because my shoes had split open at the toes, my mother gave me her spot in the line for asking for money. She took the beatings for both things. That's how it went for 17 years. Before I keep going, if you're hooked so far, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We run on dopamine here, like everyone else. Back to the story. One Saturday in February, when I was 17, I came home from a school party at 11:30. My father was in the kitchen hitting my mother against the fridge. She was bleeding from her eyebrow. He hadn't had dinner. She'd put the meat on the pan 15 minutes late. I stepped between them. I grabbed my father's wrist. "Shut up now, Dad." I'd never spoken to him like that. My father looked at me with a face I didn't recognize, a face that said okay, so that's how it's going to be. He shoved me against the wall. He said, slowly, "In this house you respect your father. If you want to fight, get out." I grabbed a jacket, the keys to the Honda Civic my mother had helped me pay for half with the money she saved from her tandas, and I walked out the door. My mother didn't say anything. Neither did I. I crossed the yard, got in a car, and parked 4 blocks away at the corner of the Soriana in Country. I thought I'd come back in the morning. My father called me at 8:30 the next day. I answered. He said, "If you want to come back, you apologize to your mother for challenging me in front of her." I hung up. I slept in the car that night too. And the next 89 nights. I'll say little about the 3 months in the Honda, because they don't live with much detail in my head either. What matters is this: I showered at the Conade gym for 200 pesos a month. I ate ham sandwiches from the OXXO next to the Soriana. I slept with the seat reclined in a blanket my mother had snuck into the trunk that night without my father seeing. A guy who slept on the sidewalk told me once, "Kid, this place doesn't work. Find a roof before you get used to it." In the 3rd month the owner of a restaurant in Valle del Campestre saw me 2 mornings in a row washing up in his bathroom before opening. His name was Don Ricardo. On the 3rd morning he called me over and said, "If you work, you don't starve. I don't give anything away. But if you wash dishes well, you have a job." I washed dishes well. Don Ricardo helped me rent a room with 3 roommates in an old house in Guadalupe. 400 pesos a month. 6 people, 1 kitchen, 10 minutes of hot water in the morning. But a roof. I started at UANL that September on a scholarship they gave me for my high school grades. Accounting. I worked 12 hours a day and slept 4. My mother called me every week. For the first 3 months I didn't answer. Then I answered once. "Danny, your father is sorry. He says you can come back." "I'm not going back, Mom. I'm going to study." "And what do I do here?" I didn't know what to tell her. I kept not answering. I understood something in that moment that took me 2 years to articulate: if I went back, my mother wouldn't get out. She'd think we were okay. And we weren't okay. If I went back, my father would think he'd won. And he hadn't won. Getting my degree took me 4.5 years. In my last year I was already working at a mid-size practice downtown. When I got my license I took the papers to Don Ricardo before anyone else. He looked at them and said, "Your mother should see this. I told him, when she can see it, I'll show her. At 25 I rented my own apartment in Valle Orient. At 26 I opened my own practice with 2 clients. By 27 it was 14. My mother came to my door on a Tuesday in February, 10 years after the Saturday I left her house. It was 10 at night. I opened the door and saw her there, arm in a sling, a bruise on her temple, and a sweater 3 sizes bigger than I remembered. She said, "Forgive me, Danny." I let her in. I got her a glass of water. I sat her on the couch. She asked if I had anything to eat and I heated up some soup. I asked her what had happened. She told me my father had pushed her against the kitchen counter the Saturday before. She hit her arm against the corner of the countertop. She fractured her radius in 2 places. 3 plates, 2 screws. My father took her to the hospital and told the doctor she'd fallen down the stairs. The doctor, who had seen my mother 3 times in 10 years, this time took her aside and gave her the pamphlet for a women's help hotline. My mother called it Monday morning while my father was at work. The woman on the line helped her find a shelter. My mother didn't go to the shelter. She came to my house. I let her sleep on the couch that night. I didn't sleep. At 6 in the morning I made her coffee and told her she was staying with me. She said yes and cried quietly for 20 minutes. Then I told her something I'd been planning for years without having planned it. "Mom, he's going to be in prison. I'm going to put him in prison. But I'm going to need your help, and I'm going to ask you to do something ugly. Forgive me for what I'm about to ask." I explained. She was going to go back to my father's house. I was going to install hidden cameras. She was going to act normal for 2 weeks. She was going to let my father yell at her, push her, humiliate her, so I could record it. Then we could put him in prison. My mother listened with her hands folded on her lap. She wiped her face. She asked, "How long?" 2 weeks. Okay. I hired a lawyer Don Ricardo recommended, a woman in her 40s, short gray hair, never in a hurry in any conversation, and a private investigator she'd used before. We bought 4 wireless cameras. The investigator went in one afternoon while my father was at work and installed them where my father would never check: the frame of a painting in the living room, the ceiling fan in the bedroom, the kitchen lamp, the hallway closet. My mother went back Wednesday afternoon. She told my father she'd calmed down and had gone to a friend's house to think. My father hugged her and told her he'd missed her. My mother went to the bedroom, turned on the cameras from her phone, and went down to make dinner. For 14 days we recorded my father. He didn't hit my mother in those 2 weeks. I think he was afraid of the cast on her arm, but he yelled at her, shoved her twice against the fridge, broke dishes, called her useless, called her a whore over a photo he found in a magazine. All of it on HD audio and video. The investigator worked separately. On day 5 he called me. "I need to show you something." We met at a cafe near my practice. He put a photo on the table, my father leaving a house in Saltillo, holding hands with a woman in her mid-30s, 2 teenagers behind them. 14 years. I sat there 3 minutes not saying anything. The investigator let me be. When I spoke I asked, "How does he afford her?" "That's what brought me here today." He slid over a folder with bank transfer records from the auto parts company to my father's personal accounts over the last 7 years. 14 million pesos. My father had been diverting money from the company where he was financial manager to keep the second family. He had an accomplice accountant internally and a network of ghost vendors. I asked the lawyer if we had enough. More than enough. On Saturday night, 2 weeks after my mother arrived at my door, I went alone to the house I grew up in. My father was in the kitchen opening a beer. My mother had already left for my house that afternoon. He saw me come in. He stopped. He hadn't seen me in 10 years. "Hello, Dad. What are you doing here?" I took out my laptop. I put it on the table. I opened the first video, him pushing my mother against the fridge 4 days earlier. He watched it. He said nothing. I opened the second file, the photos from Saltillo. The woman. The 2 teenagers. A photo of him eating a birthday meal with them. I opened the third, the transfers. He looked at me for the first time in 10 years. I said, "You kicked me out at 17. You said in this house the father is respected. Tonight I'm here to show you which house respects which father." I signaled to my mother, who was waiting in the car. She came up with the lawyer and the investigator. The lawyer put the signed complaint on the table. The investigator called the state police who were waiting outside. In 12 minutes my father was in handcuffs. Before they put him in the patrol car, he turned to look at me. "Danny." I didn't answer. My father is serving 20 years at the Apodaca State Prison. The combined sentence, domestic violence, tax fraud, breach of trust, embezzlement, came out harder than the lawyer expected. The auto parts company sued him civilly and recovered $9 million. The woman from Saltillo found out the day of the arrest, closed her door, and never opened it again. The two teenagers stopped calling him. My mother lived with me for 7 months. Then I rented her an apartment 8 blocks away and paid for her support group at an organization for victims of domestic violence. She met 3 women there who are her friends now. At 53 she got her high school diploma. At 55 she started a technical degree in social work. She says she wants to help women who went through what she went through. My father writes me every week from Apodaca. His letters always start the same: Danny, son, I hope you can forgive me. They ask me to visit him. They tell me he's sorry. That it wasn't really him. That prison has changed him. I've never opened a letter. I have a box in my closet where I put them. 127 so far. My mother doesn't open them either. She asked me once if I did. I told her no. She said, okay. My mother is 56. She lives 8 blocks from me. She hasn't spoken to my father in 2 years. And I've learned that the quietest thing a son can do to a father is not open his letters.